before I begin. If you're a vegetarian, when I tell you manufacturers add sugar to the most unusual of places, but the moment someone sees you eating just meat and vegetables only without any starches, everyone loses their mind. Hi and welcome to my channel. My name is Caroline if you're new, and if you're not, welcome back to another video. I recently shared that I am getting back on a low carb diet journey lifestyle, and a lot of you guys have been asking me about the low carb. Okay, I'm just kidding. It's not a lot of you guys, just one person. Damn. Just one person asked, and now we have a whole video. Anyway, so yeah, someone asked me about my low carb diet, why I do the low carb diet, what are the benefits, what do I eat, things like that. Before we get into it, I just want to mention that this video has been sponsored by me. Yes, this video is sponsored by me, and the way you can support this sponsorship is just by making sure that you are subscribed. Check down below if you're subscribed. It's absolutely free, doesn't cost you anything, and I'm sure you will enjoy yourself here. The reason why this question comes up a lot, especially around people who know me, is I have been quite overweight for a majority of my life. From when I was a kid, I was much bigger than the rest of my siblings. Going into high school, of course, I went to a boarding school in Kenya, so I lost a bit of weight. But after high school, I just dived straight back into eating and enjoying life, and I gained weight. For as long as I have remembered, my weight has ranged between 80 to 90 kgs. The highest that I remember recording was 96. That one was when I was in my early 20s. A small disclaimer before I begin: if you're a vegetarian or a vegan or anything like that, I consume a lot of animal protein, so this may not be the informational video for you, because when it comes to plant-based proteins, I'm really not good at figuring out which are the high protein plant-based options out there, and that's because I really don't like plant-based proteins. That when it comes to starches and carbohydrates, these are the main sources of energy for your body from the food that you consume. So I usually like using the analogy that starches or carbohydrates are sort of like fuel. So when you fuel your car, you drive it around, the fuel gets used, you have to refill. Your system is the engine in this case, and food is the fuel. So when you consume the food and then you're active, so the longer distances you go, the more activities you do, the more the fuel in your system is used up. But if you put in a lot of fuel into your body and you're not as active, then what happens to the fuel? It stays in your system. It doesn't go anywhere, doesn't get utilized, and for the human body, it gets converted into fat and stored in your body. So this is why, particularly for me, I feel like the low carb lifestyle is suitable for me, because I'm not a very active person. I do my regular exercises, the cycling, I walk around, but still does not warrant consuming extra carbohydrates, extra starches, because my body will still not be able to utilize that much. Like whatever I'm consuming now, I'm able to utilize with the low carb diet still. But if I add more starches and my activity level does not increase, then it gets converted into fat and stored into the system. When it comes to healthy eating, nowadays high sugar and high calorie type of eating has become so normalized that no one bats an eye. When you're eating fast food, when you're eating McDonald's, when you're eating like crazy amounts of rice or ugali or something like that. But the moment someone sees you eating just meat and vegetables only without any starches, everyone loses their minds and they're like, oh my god, what are you doing, what's going on? So basically this is what this video is all about. I just want to explain more about the low carb diet, show you some of the foods I eat and how I have benefited from following this kind of lifestyle. Actually, I have been on many diets throughout the years. 10-day fast, 10-day crash diet, juice diet, water fast, blah blah blah. It's crazy because I actually have a background in food and nutrition. My degree or my major in university was food and nutrition, so I actually went to school for this. And even though I went to school for it, still the information that I got from there was quite extensive. But for me to actually be able to implement a lifestyle change in my own life took me quite a long time, until after I was done with school. I have since stopped practicing, so I'm not a practicing nutritionist. I was when I was in Kenya. I was practicing and registered, but I'm not. I moved into other things. I am able to read information online or to receive information from, social media about diets and stuff like that, and I'm able to pick and choose the parts that will apply to me just because I have that background. But for most people, like, you'll find someone saying, if you drink, I've heard about the Rizempic diet, if you drink rice water every day in the morning, it works similar to Ozempic, and you can lose like 20 kgs in a month. Because of my background, I am able to separate like fact from fiction when it comes to what I consume online. And so with that and a lot of consumption of information online, I finally was able to find the lifestyle transformation that actually worked for me, that helped me change from what I used to look like to what I look like now. For the past 2 years, I've been able to roughly maintain the same weight, from my norm being between 80 to 90 kgs to currently my regular range of weight is between 65 to 68 or 69 kgs, 70 if I am very relaxed, but I try not to go above 70. When I'm referring to a low-carb lifestyle, I just mean I simply cut out starches and definitely cut out sugars, especially all added sugars. A lot of people overlook reading food labels. When I'm preparing my low-carb foods, when I'm shopping for low-carb foods, I always make sure to read food labels to make sure that there is no added sugars. A lot of people have tried doing low-carb diets before, and maybe the change was not that significant, or they did not see the results they expected, or what was promised was not what was delivered, and this is because of lack of reading food labels. Food labels are so important because a lot of products that are sold commercially have added sugar. Sugar makes things taste nice. Sugar is sweet. Sugar makes things taste delicious, and most manufacturers now understand that if they add sugar to a product, it makes it more delicious. Of course, it will make the consumer want to buy more of it. Now, when you think about added sugar, you think about sugar that is added to things like biscuits, cookies, stuff like that. But when I tell you, manufacturers add sugar to the most unusual of places, this additional sugar will be adding to your total calories, but you will not be seeing it because you're not taking a spoonful of sugar and adding it to your food. Say, for instance, things like ketchup. Ketchup has sugar in it, part of the manufacturing process to add sugar. Things like mustard, mayo. So maybe you're doing your low-carb diet and you're trying to eat your salads, and then the dressings that you put, ranch, all these have added sugar. So you're still consuming sugars in your meal. It's just that it's not added sugar, like you have not visibly added it, but it's there in the condiments. So reading food labels is extremely important. I'll just show you a few examples. Say, for example, this mustard. I bought this mustard a while ago. That time I was not really focused on the low carb, but mustard, you can see from the ingredients it has added sugar. Same for this mayonnaise, it also had added sugar. So condiments, things like that usually have a lot of added sugar. Another thing also is drinks. The obvious culprits being sodas and juices, like the manufactured juices. Even when you're blending your own juices, like if you decide to make orange juice, how many oranges does it take to make 1 cup of juice? It will take you about 3 to 4 oranges just to make 1 cup. If you were to sit down and cut up 4 oranges, would you just eat them back to back to back? Of course not. But because they're in a drink, you drink it and you're consuming way more calories than you would have if you had just eaten 1 orange, and you'd have felt satisfied. This is how we end up consuming so much more calories than our body actually needs. So currently, what I try to do when it comes to preparing my low-carb foods is I try to keep the meals very different and interesting. My entire life, I've been eating starches, and now I'm going out of the norm. I try to keep the foods different and interesting, because if you find yourself repeating the same things over and over again, then your body will just not accept it, and you just be like, you constantly be thinking about starches, you constantly be thinking about the bread. So I try to make something a bit different every day, and I try to make interesting meals. And of course, the internet is an endless resource of recipes. So I will just show you some of the foods that I have been preparing. Like for example, this is what I've been having through this week. Day one, I'm preparing teriyaki beef. I like this recipe because it was really simple. However, I made some adjustments to it, including incorporating vegetables into the teriyaki beef. This is not a recipe that I like following quite often because the teriyaki sauce, or the sauce that you use to cook the meat, includes brown sugar and cornstarch, and those are also added sources of calories. So I don't make it very often, but it is delicious and I guess a different way to prepare your beef. So I incorporated cabbage, carrots, and some peppers into the same pot, and I will just be having this as it is. It's worth mentioning that just because I'm on a low carb diet doesn't mean I'm not consuming carbs at all. Vegetables are a source of carbohydrates, but it's not in the same quantity as the normal starches like rice or flour, breads, things like that. So yes, I am still getting some calories from the carbohydrates in the vegetables, but not as much as if I had added rice to this meal. And that's my one pot beef teriyaki with vegetables. Day 2, I went for a chicken salad. I alternate mostly between beef and chicken because those are pretty easy to find. In this case, I'm using chicken breast. I'm just going to fry it in the air fryer because I'm just avoiding using excess oil from deep frying. And seasoning is just Cajun seasoning. I have to admit, cooking in the air fryer makes things so convenient because once you put it in, set the timer, that's it. And then I'm going to be making this salad with some lettuce and some cucumber. The salads also, I keep them pretty simple, like I don't complicate the meals too much. In addition to that, I added some cheddar cheese, and for the dressing, I decided to make my own homemade ranch. Like I mentioned, a lot of products, condiments that you buy from the supermarket usually have added sugar. So whenever I can, I try to make these things from scratch. The internet is an endless resource. There's so many recipe options that you can find where you can be able to make dressings from scratch without the risk of consuming extra sugar from the store-bought condiments. And making homemade ranch is so easy. In the air fryer for 25 minutes, the chicken breast is ready to go. I just slice that up and then combine everything in a bowl, and that is as easy as that. One simple chicken salad, no complications. And one thing I've learned through this process of moving over to a low carb lifestyle is a lot of foods that I see in restaurants are things that I can actually make quite easily at home. So it's also helping me avoid eating out, which is saving money. Cook at home. So day 3, I decided to make some lamb. I'm just going to be making some oven grilled lamb. I had marinated the lamb in some basic spices a few hours before this, so I just sear it in a pan to make sure that all the juices are sealed in so that it will be tender when it's grilling in the oven. It doesn't dry out. And then wrap it in some foil, throw it in the oven for about an hour. In the last 10 minutes, open up the foil and let it broil, and that's as much as you need to do. And you'll notice for most of these recipes, the process of preparing the meat from raw to cooked is very simple, so I try not to complicate it with a lot of things. For this lamb, I just served it with a lettuce salad with some carrots, some cucumbers, and the same homemade ranch that I prepared before. Basically, before I start preparing any meal, I just go and check online and see if I can find an interesting recipe that I have not tried before and try that recipe. So that's how I'm able to have different variations of pretty much the same thing over and over again. And just because I'm on a low carb lifestyle doesn't mean I cannot have pizza. So day 4, I decided to make some pizza, and on top of that, I decided to make the pizza sauce from scratch because what we are avoiding that extra sugar that those manufacturers insist on adding. And once again, when I checked online, the recipe looked so simple. I was like, I can literally do this myself, and pizza sauce can be quite expensive. So the blended tomatoes, I just added those to a pot, added some olive oil, added some apple cider vinegar, some salt, a few spices, and then I let that simmer and reduce to a nice thick paste that I can be able to use on my pizza. One thing that concerns me about the low carb diet is how expensive it can get, especially when you really focus on getting your proteins in. proteins are generally more expensive than carbohydrates, more pricier than carbohydrates. But then I think since I've cut out the cost of buying flour, I've cut out the cost of buying rice and all these other things, then maybe that helps. For the pizza topping, I decided to go with some grounded beef. So I just fried the grounded beef in some onions and a couple of spices. The reason why I'm not going into the spices, because spices is mostly spices of your choice. In this case, I just used some garlic powder, a few herbs, and that was it. For the pizza base, the star of the show is almond powder. I'm not using flour, so almond powder comes from almonds, of course. It's a great substitute for baked goods when it comes to the low carb diet. And to it, I just added similar ingredients that I used in the beef, and that is just some salt, a few herbs. You can also add yeast. It will not do anything to puff up the bread, but it will give it that familiar taste of bread, but in this case with almond flour. So to the same mixture, I'm adding cheese as well. I'm using shredded mozzarella cheese. Both the almond flour and the cheese are also really great sources of proteins. The almond flour, of course, will not behave like regular flour, so I'm just going to be using egg as a binder, no water, and then adding a bit of olive oil to the mixture before kneading it together. Even when you knead it, it turns into a crumbly mixture, sort of like cookie dough, so you're not able to roll it out like the way you would roll out normal dough. So what I found, it's very easy to roll out this almond flour dough in between two pieces of parchment paper or baking sheets. So I just cut out two large pieces and then put the dough in between and roll it out until it gets to the desired size, and then I don't even need to transfer it from the baking sheet because I'm just going to insert it in the oven just as it is. So for the almond flour, you cannot just add the toppings directly on it after spreading it out. It needs to go into the oven for at least 10 minutes so that you can get a little bit of browning on the bottom part, and then after that you can take it out of the oven and add your toppings, starting with my homemade pizza sauce, which is looking very yummy at this point. And then I add a little bit of cheese in the bottom before putting the toppings, and then I will be adding some more cheese in the top. I like cheese. Of course, I will not be able to use all the ground beef that I had fried on this pizza, so I will keep it for a different recipe. But for this one, I just topped it up with a few peppers and then the rest of the cheese, and then I sprinkled a bit of olive oil on the cheese, put it back in the oven for another 10 minutes to melt the cheese and cook the top of the pizza, and then that's it. As simple as that. A nice, delicious, yummy low carb pizza that you can eat completely guilt free. And then day 5, we finish off strong with some more chicken. So day 5 was butter chicken. So I'm just frying the marinated chicken in some ghee. I prefer using olive oil, ghee, and butter as my main cooking oils, if I can call them that. I would rather not use seed oils or vegetable oils like sunflower oil, canola oil, and there is a lot of information available online about that. So a lot of controversy about the type of oil that you use, but for me, since these are available and I'm able to get them, I would just prefer to use ghee and olive oil and butter to cook my foods. For all these recipes, I'm going to leave links in the description so that you can be able to check them out or follow through. I'm just showing you an example of what this week has looked like in terms of meals. Here I'm just using an immersion blender to blend the tomatoes and the coconut milk together before I can add the chicken that has already been pre-browned, and then that's it for the butter chicken. Pretty simple as well, although what you're about to see next will shock you. So while I was cooking the butter chicken, I had thrown some vegetables into the air fryer, some broccoli and carrots, and I accidentally charred them. I put the temperature too high and the timing too long, and they got charred, but still the taste was nice. I don't know, charred broccoli is yummy, I guess. So when it comes to snacking, generally I've not been much into snacking. For me, when I'm hungry, I want to eat a meal. This is how I am. Maybe this is why I gained weight in the first place, because I was not doing snacks. Like if I'm hungry, I will sit down with a plate of food and eat. So generally I've never been a snacker, but I know that a lot of people like snacking. A few chips here and there, a few biscuits here and there, this and that. So when it comes to snacking now, my snacks are purely savory snacks. I like yogurt, I like nuts, salted nuts. Yeah, salted nuts. I can eat a lot of salted nuts. So what I usually do is I snack on yogurt and nuts. I mix the yogurt into the nuts, or alternatively carrots and peanut butter. Sounds like a weird combination, but it works for me. So if you're snackish, there are snacks that are low carb. It might not be a usual taste of something sweet, something crunchy, but still, like snacking on vegetables. Cucumbers, I used to hate cucumbers. I used to hate them so much, but nowadays what I do with cucumbers is I chop them up and then I add some chili to it. Yeah, cucumbers with chili and a bit of salt works for me as a snack. So when it comes to trying to follow a low carb diet, especially if you're trying to follow it for weight loss, even when it comes to your snacking, you can find so many variations of snacks that do not add any excessive calories to your system. So what I've been doing is combining doing the low carb with intermittent fasting. Currently what I do is I consume a coffee in the morning, plain coffee, no sugar, nothing, just coffee. Then after that, maybe much later in the day, I'll start feeling a bit hungry. Between 12 to 3 p.m. I will have my snack of the day, maybe the yogurt and the nuts, and then at around between 4 to 6, then I will have the main meal. That is what I usually show on my channel when I'm preparing. That is usually the meal that I'm having. I started doing intermittent fasting strictly, like the one where I actually had an app on my phone. I used to do the 16, 18, 22 hours and all that, but now I don't measure it anymore, because after doing it over and over again, it has become like I don't feel hungry in the morning, so I don't wake up looking for breakfast or anything like that. If I'm out at a resort and the breakfast is inclusive, then yes, we will be having breakfast. I will wake up at 9 a.m. to have breakfast. But generally, I'm not a breakfast person. I don't have breakfast. So now the fasting, I don't have to track it, because I just make sure that I have my dinner early. The next day in the morning, usually I'm not hungry in the morning, so I will start having my meals maybe midday or after midday. So intermittent fasting has sort of become part of my lifestyle in that form, in that I don't track it, but it just happens to be that's how I consume my meals. Last and final thing that is extremely important is drink your water. Drink as much water as you can, but don't overdo it, because also too much water can be poisonous. I don't know if it's because of the weather over here. I've become a very big water drinker, so I drink a lot of water. But sometimes when I want something a bit different, like when I feel like I'm craving a soda or something like that, there is this particular brand of sparkling water that I like. I know a lot of people don't like sparkling water, but this one is lemon and mint flavored. Yes, I checked the food label. It doesn't have extra calories added to it. It's just a flavored water, but that is my alternative for soda nowadays. So I don't take sodas. Even the packaged iced teas, juices, I don't drink all of this. I just drink regular water, or if I want something a bit different, then I drink sparkling water. But the flavored water, still be careful. Always look at the food label if it has added sugar, because again, you'll be drinking the calories that you've been avoiding to eat and not seeing the benefit of changing to this way of eating. Yeah, so with all that being said, I have really benefited a lot with diving into the low carb route. I have found that I'm able to maintain a weight range that is reasonable. I have a scale that I use to monitor my numbers. Just give me a basic overview of my system, how it is, my body water percentage, my body fat percentage and all that. And with that, I have seen such a huge change, not only on the numbers on the weight, but I have been able to bring down my body fat to a normal range. like I've been able to bring a lot of things back to the normal range, and the most important, the one I'm always watching, is the metabolic age. So metabolic age basically tells you how well your body is functioning in relation to your age. So your body you can be maybe 40, but your body is so beat down that it's functioning as a 60-year-old. So I remember when I started, my metabolic age was something crazy, like 42 or something like that. Currently, my metabolic age is the same age as my age. If it goes over, I feel like I'm just aging my body way faster than it needs to be. But yeah, if you're more active, if you work hard enough, then you can be able to bring that number lower than your actual age, which is the ideal. Means that you're not putting your body through it, that you're not aging yourself faster than you need to be. This topic is so wide and vast, and there's also so much information out there right now available about this topic that every time I think of something, a tangent comes in my brain, and I know if I go that way, then I would lose focus on the other things that I wanted to mention. So if you have any specific questions, you can drop them in the comments box down below. But yeah, that's basically what I've been doing for myself, and trying to maintain my body weight as it is, trying to maintain a healthy lifestyle. But it's a vast topic, so maybe any specific questions you can ask. Also consult a professional if in case like you have any major concerns, if you really want to lose weight. In my case, I consulted myself before I started losing weight because I am a professional. Not every lifestyle works for everyone. There's no cookie cutter mold that will fit everyone, so maybe consult a professional. First of all, find out your weight, find out what's going on in your system. If you can get those full body checks, then you can be able to decide which lifestyle or which way of changing your lifestyle will work best for you. Or in general, if you're not able to access all of this, I would just say cut out the carbs, cut out the excess sugars, fizzy drinks and all that, and see how well it works for you. But that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching all the way until the end. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.